We'll make a start in about 3 or 4 minutes. I just thought we'd jump in early just to make sure people can get the stream set up so we can see it's all working as usual. Thank you, Frank, for rearranging this one about 73 times and making sure it's all it's in now. We're doing it. I hope it's worth the wait.
We got
third time. Yeah, we did. I say at least the first excuse was a legitimate one of your point of view. Having
it was indeed, yes.
A family emergency always takes priority.
Yes.
And then
carted off to hospital. So yeah.
Well, I say hopefully she's feeling better now.
Yeah. It's not too bad.
Good. And I know that obviously I hadn't had to rearrange last week because I was on a plane and I completely forgot when I rearranged it. So that was pretty much it. So hopefully people actually remember this is going ahead, and it's changed time obviously as well. It was going to be in the evening and now it's during the day. So hopefully people are able to get out of what they were doing to attend. So we'll leave it probably another 2 or 3 minutes, just let people come in. Obviously this is the live stream of the 3 mistakes you're making on your maintenance planner. Please do kind of get your questions ready for Frank and I. This is going to be hopefully an interesting one, more aimed at more of the inexperienced TM, but maybe the experienced lot might get something out of this as well. We're also running a Q&A afterwards on the TMC, so if you are wanting to chat to Frank and myself with cameras on and actually able to have a conversation around it, then please do join the TMC. I'll put the link in the chat now. Elizabeth, I am live. So I will put the link in now. So yeah, if you go while we're waiting to go live, to kind of have, if you go the link in, go sign up for your free account now, and you should be able to get in and attend and grab your spot on the workshop. This is me frantically typing and sending messages whilst also talking. So apologies for the gormless look while I'm doing this. So yeah, there's the link in the various chats. So if you've got any questions, jump in that. Sign up for the free account, we'll be over there at about 1:30 to answer any questions you've got. We'll leave another one minute or so and see if anyone else joins. How are you, Frank? Anyway, we jumped in about half an hour ago to prep. I didn't ask how you actually were. How are you?
Hanging in there. Not bad for a Monday in the great scheme of things.
There you go. What's the weather like up with you?
Torrential rain clearing off really to it. If those southern Europeans are having this baking heat waves, and we've got monsoon season going on. So
I say I went to pop out for lunch and I got caught in between showers and the heavens opened. Didn't have a coat. I'm like, oh, for God's sake, I'm going to look like a drowned rat when I get onto this live stream. So had to hide in M&S for 10 minutes, wait for the weather to clear before I was able to run back to the office.
This time of the year, you shouldn't need a coat, should you?
Well, exactly. Yeah.
We didn't in April and May.
No, and June, to be honest. Yeah. So it's.
That said, I noticed Sicily was 48 degrees the other day. That's just
that's just insane. Like I can't. Anything over like 25 degrees is too much for me, in my opinion. But I complain when it's too hot. I complain when it's too cold. I'm just typical Brit, basically, when it comes to this sort of stuff.
That's just a British thing, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. I say the generic conversation you have when you're waiting for something to start is the weather, isn't it? Let's be honest. So, cool. Well, we've not had as many people join as I'd hoped, but I hope people will start joining in once 1 o'clock kind of clicks round. So we'll make a start anyway. So, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Frank, for joining me on this live stream on 3 mistakes you're making on your maintenance planner. Some of the feedback was quite an aggressive title. It was intentional. I wanted people to sign up. So we're going to go through three of the more common mistakes you see when you kind of look at your maintenance planner and what you can sort of do to avoid it. before we start, Frank, do you want to do it? I know obviously we've done various live streams with yourself in the past, but do you want to do a quick intro of who you are and why we should listen to you? So yeah, Frank, do you want to just do a quick bio for the audience?
Yeah, yeah. Frank Morris. I'm director of F&M Transport Limited. These days, I predominantly just concentrate on external transport management and some transport consultancy as well. I've been knocking around since the army days when I done my HGV. I think I was a HGV driving instructor by the age of 19. And then when I left the army, I've run a variety of different operations, uh, predominantly waste management and express parcels, with some tankers thrown in and a good mixed bag. So yeah, I've done depot, regional, national roles, whether it be management or transport management. So yeah, quite a mixed bag. I do every so often, and you chuck something in just to remind me that I was a bobby for a couple of years. I do tend to leave that out a little bit.
Yes.
But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I was a Cheshire bobby for 4.5 years before I was headhunted back into to run a flagship depot in Manchester. So yeah, triple the wage and the stuff like. And at the time, it seemed to be an half decent plan. So
So it's
so
hard
yeah,
to
yeah,
hard not
reasonably
follow the.
experienced in the
Yes, yeah.
yeah.
I say it's hard not to follow the money when it's such a significant step up.
Yeah, well, it was. I was feeling a little bit frustrated at the time, but yeah, yeah, it was a financial opportunity that was
Yes.
too
Yeah.
good to miss.
Good stuff. Well, yeah. So obviously you are suitably experienced to go through this, and I'm sure you've made some of these mistakes in your career, or at least you've seen these mistakes happen in your operators that you work
I
with.
think
So
I think we've all seen a variety of different mistakes, or just people not realising the importance
yeah,
of things. It's not always a mistake, but they just weren't aware of the requirements.
I think that's sometimes more scary as well. I think everyone can make a mistake and hold your hand up and try and rectify it. It's when you have no idea you're making the mistake in the first place. But anyway, so I guess, yeah, we are going to cover three specific mistakes. We're going to keep this quite short and snappy. So we're going to keep this to about 20-25 minutes. And then, as I said just before we started, we'll take some questions and do some Q&A over on the TMC. So we're running a workshop afterwards. Full disclosure, it's a chance for you for our audience to actually get a chance to have a look at the TMC. It's a free workshop, how we're going to run it, so it's not part of our paid plan. So it's a chance to kind of have a play and have a look around, and then obviously talk to Frank and myself around some of these things. So we'll kind of wrap it up about 20 past, give or take, and then we'll wait for you guys to kind of make your way across the TMC to kind of get on with cameras on and have a chance to chat to us afterwards. So the first mistake is, I think, quite a simple one. They're all fairly simple mistakes, but I think they're important to talk about in a bit more detail. So the first one that we've discussed and we've kind of looked at is not having 6 months of a maintenance planner in advance is like the first mistake that I think a lot of people can make. Do you want to kind of elaborate on that, Frank?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, people put a maintenance planner together and they'll do it for the full year. But not everyone is aware that once you get to the end of June, then you've no longer got a full 6 months
Yeah,
that's showing from a forward planner. So as soon as you get to that point, or before you get to that point, you want to start pulling together a 2024 planner, or the year after planner, and have it readily available, whether you display it or but it has to be readily available. Yeah, and not everyone is aware that you have to always have 6 months forward planning in advance.
actually visually shown. So what should actually be shown on, like, what obviously not just a calendar, should it be like every time there's a PMI or an MOT due,
Yeah,
it should be
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah. I
literally.
mean, MOTs and as such, they should always be displayed anyway with the date and tax and 2 year calibration and stuff. But yeah, the PMI dates, that's the main thing. So if you're on a 6 weekly or an 8 weekly, whatever the case may be, you should have your next 6 months of PMIs planned and readily available to be viewed.
Yeah. So and obviously
Yeah,
once you clock over into July, and if you are running on an annual calendar, then clearly you're not going to have the full 6 months, and
yeah. So
I guess
just
that
get
could be a.
Yeah,
Sorry. Yeah, so yeah, I think the clocking into July, I think, is the mistake we're looking to kind of. I must say,
yeah, yeah,
if you use digital systems or Excel or whatever, well, even Excel is the same as having a wall planner or a whiteboard. It still has a definitive end date. Whereas if you're using digital systems, clearly you've got kind of a kind of infinite. I know some of our customers use our platform Hub to plan things, and it does give like an infinite number,
yeah, yeah.
and so you don't have
If
to
you,
worry
if
about this.
yeah, if you're using a platform, then yeah, that's and it's got that technology in that you just put it in, and you just put in whatever the PMI is, 6, 8, whatever, that will automatically just generate, which is great. But it's the more manual ones that we're looking at, and predominantly smaller operators. Then they wouldn't be using platforms typically because you're just
Yeah,
going to go for a cheaper option.
a simpler wall
Um,
planner. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I guess. And so I mean, from your experience actually on the boots on the ground with operators, when the 1st of July rolls around, and or they when you need to, like, do you sit down for like a week and then start planning the next year? Do you kind of have a chance? Do you literally take the wall planner off the wall and put a new one up, or how would you do that?
I think all operators are different, but I start having normally by the end of um, March, April time. I've got the year later already done. Um,
Yeah,
predominantly, I generally use Excel these days because I've predominantly just got smaller operators now, um, which is ideal, easier to deal with, less time constraints.
yeah,
So yeah, and it's just simple. It's just a nice and simple Excel spreadsheet. And the thing, it's very versatile. You can colour it in as green when you know that the document's on file.
yeah,
So yeah, yeah. People are still using the big, the big ones from main dealers or RHA, which
yeah.
which they all do the job. They all do the job, just
I
not
must say,
as versed as that.
when I sit in, actually go into clients and sit in operators, and you do look around and go, some people do like a wall planner, whether it is a one for kind of maintenance and scheduling and stuff, or whether it is for kind of availability of vehicles for job management and stuff. It's people do like the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
big wall planners on the wall.
I've always liked visual. I mean, I just like to be able to see something on the wall. It's probably an old-fashioned way of doing it, but I'm
I
not
don't
going to
know.
change
I,
that,
I
am I?
mean, I try and digitize as much of my life as I can. I run a technology company, of course I'm going to, but invariably walls are covered in post-it notes, and that is kind of how as a team we do tend to brainstorm that way. I
Where would we be without post-it notes?
What exactly? Where would we indeed? So the next mistake is, so we've covered obviously not having 6 months in advance, and the mistake there is as you clock over into July, not making sure it's actually 6 months. Less of an issue with digital systems, but as we say, if you're still on paper or analog with Excel, even you don't have that infinite number. It's something to be aware of. Second point is incorrect weekly intervals. So, what do you mean by that, Frank? Do you want to kind of
Yeah.
elaborate on that?
So when you're putting in for a operator's license, you put in the weeks that you're intending to inspect the vehicles, whether it be a 6 weekly or an 8 weekly or 10 week. Um, and yeah, people will put on and they won't follow that structure. So if they've got it down as they've submitted to traffic commissioner as a 6 weekly, and then they'll put 8 weekly on for some reason on the forecasting. So yeah, whatever you've submitted to the traffic commissioner on your application, that's what you do.
Is it?
You
I mean,
can do
this is.
less.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can obviously do
Yeah,
less.
you
Is
can
it
do
possible?
less.
Is it possible to change it? Like,
Yeah, yeah, it certainly is. It is, yeah. But yeah, if you, I mean, again, we're moving off topic a smidgen. It's more onto the operating license and applications and such. But people will look at it and think, well, why should I do a 6 weekly when I can do 12 weekly and save money? But there's a lot of criteria around that with regard to age of vehicles and mileage and type of terrain
yeah,
and such like. So let's go into a bit more detail. But yeah, yeah, it's important to then, if you as a TM, you go into the operator and they say, oh yeah, we're on a 12 weekly, then it's important to then pass the information across to them and say, well, actually, I know that's what you've put on through your application, but 12 weekly isn't suitable for you
Yeah.
because of X, Y, and Z. So you'll need to amend that to 6 weekly or 8 weekly.
Is that? I mean, this is showing my inexperience and lack of knowledge. But how do you come up with whether it's 4, 6, 7, 10 weeks? Like you say, obviously it's based on age of vehicle, type of terrain, type of work. But is there
Yeah,
like a
yeah, there is
is
a
that
criteria.
experience, or is there an actual like if you're in this, it's this sort of thing?
Yeah, if you go onto the guide to maintenance planning, there's a sort of general criteria in there of what's expected. Um, and yeah, it's not a hard and fast rule. Ultimately, you've got to be able to provide the evidence to be able to show that you've got continuous and effective control of the transport
Yeah.
management. So, if you're on an 8 weekly and and you're doing quite a few miles, but you're absolutely spot on, you're right on top of the defect, you might be able to justify and say, actually, yeah, we can do that because we've got all these systems in place,
Yeah.
and we do, yeah, we do an 8 weekly PMI, but we'll do an interim check of ourselves, and there's lots of different operators have got different roles.
Okay,
But
that's interesting. Yeah, I think it's because I think the it's kind of it will lead on to our third one around the third point, third mistake around VORs, which is what we'll come to. But setting periodicity, setting the 6 weeks or 8 weeks, is to be aware that bank holidays exist and sites close down and access to your vehicle may become limited. I know we've had customers in the past that have gone over on their PMI and not done anything about it because the site that they park at was closed. They were down tools for 2 weeks over Christmas, as some businesses do, and they missed their date and they didn't do anything about it. And so on their records, they had 2 weeks of kind of outside of their schedule, and
yeah,
that's really not appropriate. Which I think is what we're going to talk about now, which is incorrect VOR or vehicle off road handling. Obviously, that is a whole process. That's a whole kind of way of handling VOR within your fleet. What we're talking about here briefly is how it affects the maintenance planner, which I think is an important kind of point to make.
yeah. So they're not recognising or recording the periods of VOR on the planner. So if you're currently on a 6 weekly, excuse me, and yeah, use your example, closed 2 weeks for Christmas, they hadn't done the forethought of being able to get the vehicle out and get it into the workshop, so it's ready to get done. As long as the vehicle has stood still, then yeah, that 6 weekly would then become, well, it'd be 9 weeks if it stood for 2 weeks, so that would be on the ninth week. You would just record it as the vehicle as a VOR, and ideally have a VOR on the file to bridge that gap.
So, I
Um,
mean,
and
obviously having it on the file makes sense. Having it on the vehicle, making the vehicle kind of obviously
yeah,
VOR.
yeah, yeah,
Again, that's
yeah,
another conversation. But
yeah.
putting it on the actual maintenance planner, so it's very
Put it on the planner,
visual.
yeah. So you got to again, if you use an Excel, you can insert a comment. So you can change a date and insert a comment. So anyone going in and hovering over it would be able to see vehicle VOR for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and a new date of PMI was this date. So you then got a choice of either using that date and changing your forecast to 6 weeks from the new date, or leave the original one, so you'd have it one as a 9 week, but the vehicle hasn't moved for those 3 weeks, and then it'll be done in 3 weeks time again. So you've got a choice
Why?
of
I guess this is my potential naivety and lack of knowledge and experience. But why would you not just reset your schedule to every 6 weeks from that date?
uh, I, to be honest with you, if obviously you would save money by rescheduling it and
Yeah.
redoing it and changing it. Not everyone wants to make the changes, and this is why if you've got a lovely little or a lovely big wall planner on the wall, then you've got to start getting a liquid paper out, or
I
if
was
it's
going to
in a
say
pencil,
start
you're rubbing
going.
it out and
Yeah.
such in it. And this is why I personally I'm not a massive fan of the big wall planners, because they look great once they're done and it's all with the legends and such. It's when you've got to start making changes,
Yeah.
and then they just start looking a little bit messy. Whereas Excel's a wonderful thing. You can just sort of kind of, or whiteboard. You can
Yeah.
rip things out and do what you like with it. Like, but yeah, yeah. So not everyone wants to make the changes.
I think there's one bonus mistake that we were talking about literally before we came on air, and I think it's an important one because obviously you being an external TM and a lot of our audience being external TMs is the assumption it will actually be done on time.
Yes, yes. So you're not, as an external, you're not on site all the time. So depending on the size of it, you might be there a couple of days a week. You might be there just a couple of hours a week. Um, so you're not on site all the time. So typically, I mean, I've sent messages to two of my customers to warn them off, to remind them that the inspections are due for next week. I'll then chase them again on probably Thursday, Friday to say, how are you getting on? Typically they generally get them done on a Friday night or a Saturday, these customers. But I'm just checking to make sure that they have got it planned in and it's going to get done. Um, so yeah, when they go radio silence, then you do start getting a little bit of a freckle twitch, thinking,
Yeah.
have they done it? Have they got it arranged and such, or are they just busy? Um, but yeah, yeah. I mean, it's useful sometimes if you've got, um, say, one of the main dealers, and you've got login details to get into the main dealers, so you can then see what's going on a bit better,
Yeah.
really. But yeah, if it's just a normal maintenance provider, that you can always give them a ring if you've got the direct details
So
to
who? I
them
mean,
as well.
obviously you have to maintain continuous control as a TM.
Yes,
That is your
yeah,
duty.
it is.
Does it depend on the relationship you have with your customer as to whether you are the one booking it in or whether they are booking it in on your kind of guidance?
They they should really, because it's their operation. Again, it depends on the size of it and how much time you're spending. But
Yeah.
using the example, and there's probably going to be a lot of people on the TMC that have got one or two vehicle operators.
Yeah.
There could be some one-man bands that are doing their own transport management, and done the course, and as owner drivers, owner operators. Um, so they predominantly do the majority of stuff, but you only need to do predominantly one or 2 hours a week that you're doing. If you're turning up, you don't want to be, really, you want them to arrange the stuff. All you're
Yeah.
doing is check to make sure that it's all getting done, and then going into the tacos and the rest stuff. But you're limited to what you can do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're limited to what you can charge to a certain extent. It's
Yeah.
got to be, it's got to be viable for them and for you to do it.
I guess as part of your kind of agreement that you have as your letter of appointment or whatever it is, you have your contract in place between yourself and the operator.
Yeah, yeah, your
You
transport agreement.
stipulate
Yeah, yeah,
you stipulate exactly what duties you have and what they have in response to their responsibilities to for this.
yeah, yeah. And ultimately, I make it quite clear. There's a lay down process that I go through, really, when I'm taking on a new customer, especially if I'm going to be actually named as the on the as the TM on the O license. Um, then yeah, expectations, and I lay it out from the word go, who does what, and
Yeah.
where I fit in, but my expectations of them and what they need to do to make sure that I look after them,
Yeah.
and at the same time they look after me, if you like, my repute, making
And I
sure that
guess
we've all
it.
got
I
the
mean,
straight
I
stuff.
know. I know. I've had conversations with other TMs where they have like a three strikes and you're out sort of rule. Of if you if you don't do what is expected of you as an operator, then kind of you will remove your name from the O license and you will kind of stop working with them because at the end of the day, it is your professional repute on the line.
It is, yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, that's the world that we live in, really, and not everyone, no, not every operator treats it with the respect it deserves, and
Yeah.
they just think, oh well, it'll be fine because they've never had any issues, and they've done it like this for 10 years, and they're on to the 26th external TM or something or other, and
I wonder why.
so yeah, 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 yeah. There are times when you've got to make a decision to walk away. I
Yeah.
think, especially if you've been in the game for a few years, then I think we've all had a go at that, really. But
Yeah.
ultimately, you give them a benefit of the doubt, and you lay out the expectations. But ultimately, if they don't do what they need to do,
Yeah.
then you've got no choice to walk away. But yeah, you give them a shot across the bows to coach and develop them, but sometimes yeah, you've got to protect yourselves
Yeah,
because it's
no,
not
for sure.
just if you lose your repute, it's not just
Mm.
with that operator, it's right across the board. Like, so.
Yeah, so not just affects your income as an ETM, but also all of your customers are kind of affected by it as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it has,
If you're as a named on the O license, then yeah, it does have a knock on effect.
yeah, which is
Um,
not great for yourself or for your operator. So,
no,
um, that was obviously a very short, sharp 20 minutes around the three mistakes. So just to kind of summarize, not having 6 months in advance, and the common mistake there is if it's a wall planner or a non-automated system, it doesn't kind of when you hit 1st of July, it doesn't carry on for a full 6 months. Incorrect weekly intervals, so not taking into account like bank holidays, or as one example, I didn't actually say this, but one customer, one person, one story I've heard where someone missed their PMI and decided, I'll just do it again in 6 weeks' time, thinking that was appropriate. Clearly not. So yeah, incorrect weekly intervals, not matching what is on your O license requirements. For that was the VOR, so not actually managing your VOR process on the maintenance planner to prove why it was suddenly a 9 week period
yeah,
between PMIs. And the bonus one, obviously, is an external TM specifically, making the assumption it's being done on time, and how you handle those obligations between yourself and the operator is sometimes a mistake you can make, and you don't want to make that more than once. So that is the live stream kind of done. I've seen no specific questions come in. I'm guessing people are holding on to them to the workshop we're going to run in a couple of minutes time. So on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, there is a link there to sign up to the TMC. Like I say, it's free. Just go put your email address in. Um, we'll hang around for about 7 minutes here. So if anyone wants to ask how to get into the TMC, we'll be here. But we're going to start making our way across to the TMC now. Actually, no. This is the joys of live. We'll go across now. So Frank and I will close this live stream. If anyone has any questions, just ask it on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, and I'll direct you across. But I'll see you on the workshop, which is once you go on to live sessions on the TMC. It's the first one on the left, so it's the one around ins and outs of the maintenance planner. Chance to ask any questions, about half an hour, and then we'll be done by about 2 o'clock. So it's not. This shouldn't take any more than your lunch break, essentially. So I look forward to Frank. We're going to do our little. It's a bit like when the tennis goes from BBC One to BBC Two and it runs over, doesn't it? I feel like we're going to kind of come across. So yeah, we're going to do our swap now. And I look forward to chatting to you guys in a few minutes. Frank, do you want to? I'm going to set the room up. Do you want to go and jump into the other room on the
yeah,
TMC now?
yeah. We'll
And
do.
I'll
Okay.
do all the jiggery pokery with this now. Cool.
Smashing. Okay.
Cheers.